If they are caught by Masangdu, their legs will be cut off. But when you want to do something to the children. Yuna's cell phone rang in her pocket. Balance app, then pick up the phone, then pick up the phone. It turned out that it was the teacher who called them. The teacher had memorized the voice who answered the phone. In a very angry state. The teacher wanted to bet his life with Mr. Sangdo. Then Park Sangdo answered the telephone conversation. "Why are you talking so scary?" said Mr. Sangdo. "I will make their legs disabled like you said, Mr. Sangdo." The teacher, with overflowing charity, wants to visit Mr. Sangdo. If the teacher reaches this place, "I wonder how many of their legs will still be intact," said Mr. Sangdo. In their bet, if the teacher wins, then Choi Yung-chong's son will be freed. But if there is time, then all of his students will be finished. The teacher was shaking on the rocks because he was so scared. Suddenly, after they ended their conversation, someone called from outside. They said the names Yuna and Sungu. Mr. Sangdo was curious about that voice. After Mr. Sangdo left, Yuna tried to untie her shoelaces and take off her shoes. Then his legs stretched out towards Kim Sungu's face. Yuna was even surprised that Sungu had woken up first. According to Sungu, Yuna's stinky feet and then sticking them in his face was very impolite. Then Yuna untied the rope tied to her hand. Yuna was shocked because Sungu was the first to escape from his bindings. Sungu had already cut the rope that tied her hands when Yuna was in danger earlier. Yuna said that this was not a simple mission. The person who had previously been in the Glory Club. Then Sungu or Peter said, "Hey Yuna, do you like betting?" Yuna just stared at his words. Their two friends looked like they didn't care. After Sangdo arrived at their place, the two brothers immediately wanted to end it. Sangdo looks like an ordinary office employee. They asked where the kidnapped child was, but again that uncle invited them to bet with them. They both agreed. In a hurry, the teacher went to where the students were because he was worried that something would happen to them. Sangdo took something out of his pocket. Sangdo continues the bet. If they lose, then their feet are guaranteed. Their bet was very dangerous for the brothers and sisters, but they were very confident. They were even very eager to defeat that uncle and make him unable to walk tomorrow. But the uncle actually dropped the weapons, so they could use them too. The bet will be fairer if you use the same weapon. Without hesitation, the two of them immediately took it and attacked the uncle. They clashed with each other. Sangdo is still calm. They think uncle is slower than them. Uncle hasn't launched an attack at all, he's still defending. They are full of confidence that they can win over uncle. Suddenly, in an instant, uncle immediately turned things around. Uncle swung his weapon very quickly. They were shocked by that. It was clear that the type of knife blade was the same. They felt something was wrong. Sure enough, it turned out that my uncle gave me a knife that didn't have a blade. The uncle even laughed at them. Then Sungu and Yuna come. But the brothers told Sungu and Yuna not to interfere, because this is a betting battle. If we lose, chances are you won't be able to win. They were told to just watch from a distance. Sungu and Yuna obeyed the two of them and just watched from afar. They both looked excited again after they told him about their goals. That is, to be like a Peter. They don't know that Sungu is the one. They both immediately launched an attack, because according to them, uncle was a ladder that had to be traversed to become like a pier. They managed to corner uncle. Their cooperation is very good. One of them jumped up to launch his attack, while saying that uncle will regret giving him the knife, while swinging his gun and aiming it at uncle's head. Suddenly, without realizing it, the uncle grabbed his hand. Then one of his friends helped by holding out his knife. Suddenly, the uncle swung his knife and destroyed the knives of the two brothers. It's very strange for lay people. It's clearly the same type of knife, but it can destroy the opponent's knife. Based on information, the weapon used by uncle was called a kukri. Kukri is a traditional machete-shaped weapon from Nepal. The thickness and weight of the weapon were 3 times heavier than ordinary sharp weapons. It takes special skills to master this weapon. Faster than a knife and heavier than an axe. The weapon is a weapon suitable for killing someone. But the students didn't believe uncle's nonsense. They continued to launch a 2-pronged attack. According to the students, it turned out that uncle was not an ordinary office employee, because judging from the way he fights, it is really very different from ordinary people. The 2 brothers and sisters told Yuna and Sungu to leave that place. Seeing the 2 of them fall, Yuna screamed very loudly. The Dokdo brothers had to lose to their uncle named Sangdo. They weren't killed by Mr. Sangdo, just died. Even so, Mr. Balancing doesn't want to lose his betting agreement. Even so, Mr. Sangdo doesn't want to lose his betting agreement, namely cutting off both their legs. Yuna was very worried if that really happened. Just before Mr. Sangdo wanted to cut off their legs, Sungu offers the bet back to 2 times. 2 sleeves plus neck. Mr. Sangdo was immediately interested in the offer. Mr. Sangdo threw the same weapon at Peter. Mr. Sangdo said again that the fight would be fair if the weapons used were the same. Yuna is angry with Mr. Sangdo's style of giving the same weapon when facing the brothers. But Peter said he didn't need the knife. It didn't make sense. Peter even took a tray with a picture of a flower on it. Mr. Sangdo actually laughed out loud at Peter's behavior. Mo Sangdo said it was very funny. Pak Sangdo is older, but won't give in to the younger ones. With Sangdo's speed, he immediately launched himself at Peter. Peter uses the tray as a shield. Pak Sangdo continued to launch attacks with the kukri weapon. Meanwhile, the teacher still hasn't arrived at the location. The teacher imagines what happened when he was young. At that time, Mr. Sangdo was fired from the Glory Club because he caused a big mess. The Glory Club really wants to finish off Mr. Sangdo because he has made a very big mistake. But Mr. Sangdo is difficult to stop because his strength is beyond human. And exactly that day I lost my leg. Hopefully what happened that day will not happen again with the new students. Back to Peter and Sangdo's fight. Sangdo managed to split the tray and hit Peter's head. The tray finally split into 2. With only shield finally became 2. Yuna really wants to help, but it is very dangerous for Yuna. Thanks to Sangdo, Peter finally had 2 weapons in his hands, namely a tray that was split into 2. Sangdo was surprised by the student's ability. He wasn't even an ordinary student, even though the uncle thought that his slash was very clear about Peter's head. But in an instant he managed to jump back. Her body was fine, even just the tray was split. Is it true that he is just a student? Sangdo was surprised by that. He asked where he learned tricks like that. Sangdo took off his shirt, then threw the shirt in the direction Peter was. At full speed, the uncle attacked Peter after the shirt was thrown. The uncle wanted to make sure that the trick was right or wrong. The uncle was sure he had slashed him because it was clearly visible. But who would have thought what uncle slashed was a pillow? Peter suddenly appeared from behind. Peter could have cut that uncle's throat, but the uncle's hand protected his neck. In an instant, Peter was behind the uncle. Without a doubt, he could have cut his neck. If he hadn't been pushed away with uncle's hand, his neck might have been severed. The uncle began to understand that the tray was not actually used as a shield, but also can scratch clothes. but the trays can hurt exposed skin such as the neck and hands. Besides that, the student showed unmatched speed. The uncle doubted whether he was really human. The weight of the kukri can destroy objects around it. Every time it is swung, if it gets hit, anyone will definitely die. But Uncle's movements were slower than Kim Sun-gu. Maybe because he was burdened with the kukri weapon. His movements were slow. If the flow of the fight is like that, it's possible that Sun-gu can win. But there was something strange about Uncle's weapon. In this weapon there is another weapon, namely a smaller knife. Sun-gu's face was finally cut by the knife. Because the weight is lighter, the uncle's movements are faster than before. The uncle now controlled the course of the fight. Now Sun-gu can only survive. Uncle was very different from before. His movements were much faster than before, but Yuna thought it was very strange. It was clear that the weapon was for stabbing. But the uncle just winged it. With relentless attacks, the uncle managed to corner Sun-gu, to the point where the uncle wanted to stab Sun-gu in the neck. Suddenly, the uncle's weapon fell from his grasp. This was a very unexpected thing for Mr. Sangdo. The uncle was now starting to wake up. The disciple wasn't actually aiming for his neck, but from the start, he was deliberately aiming for that uncle's hand. Flexor muscles, extensor muscles, adductor muscles, median nerve, radial nerve, ulnar nerve, ligament muscles needed to make a fist. Sun-gu has cut everything. From the start, Sun-gu didn't intend to kill the uncle. That uncle couldn't accept all the sullen treatment. The man in front of the uncle was not just an ordinary student. Actually, how many people has he killed so far? That is a big question for that uncle. Previously, the uncle said that the silver tray couldn't beat uncle's sturdy weapon. From now on it will be proven that the tray can crush anything, namely crushing rocks with a fist made from a tray sheath.